Second time I've done that tonight. Got to add myself to the stream for you guys to see my face. What's going on, fishy friends? We are at the last leg of the fishing reports for the evening, going back to my home state, right down there in Georgia, for the Georgia Inshore fishing report with Captain Massa. Before we get to that, guys, I am so proud of our audience. As you guys know that follow our channel, we've been dedicating this holiday season towards benefiting the family of Lakeland Draheim and her family. Lakeland is a young lady that lives on the eastern shore of Maryland, and she's battling an aggressive form of brain cancer. And our audience has contributed to two auctions we've done tonight. One, the TFC, what is it called?
The bundle.
The TFC bundle. And the other one was just a walk-on that, because of our channel followers, Alan Batista added books. Pete added a BKD. Pete added a BKD package to his walk-on trip. And Carl Ward, one of our TFC Plus members, threw in some bucktails that he makes. We were able to raise over $600 for that family. So I am so proud and grateful to our followers, our listeners, all across the country and wherever else you may be in the world. Thank you so much for that. But for the last show of the night, we are going back to our bread and butter, and we are doing a question of the evening. And for that, we are highlighting a old school tackle company combo here. All of our combos that we give for our prizes are well suited for each other. This is a 1/4 ounce jig head, pack of jig heads, and a 3 3¾ paddle tails called the Hammer from Old School Tackle Company. And we'll bring in Captain Massa here in a second. But if you're fishing down in Georgia, South Carolina, really anywhere, this combo will slay fish. I can promise you that. We'll definitely slay fish. So let's bring in Captain Massa now. Captain Massa, how are you, sir?
Another great day in McIntosh County.
Man, and you know what? I am jealous because you guys didn't get this deluge of rain that we got up here. It's been nice down there, hasn't it?
So far, it's been nice. We're expecting this little cold snap to hit us pretty hard. It's going to drop down some temperatures well below what they've been all year long. So that's really exciting to me.
Right. So let's just dive right into that. What does that do for the Georgia Inshore saltwater fish bite?
Man, I tell you what, I've been waiting for this temperature drop for the whole winter time so far. What that's going to do is, I believe, going to push those trout that are the remaining trout out in the big water up into those creeks. It's really going to concentrate them up into those deeper holes during the coldest times of the morning. And then anytime that it's warming up and the sun's out, they're going to come off of those deep holes and find those flats again. So if you know where some great deep spots are right next to a warming flat, you're really going to be able to find fish. So the cold weather equals, to me, consolidated fish. And I know where those deep holes are. And I think that I'll be on them thicker than we ever have been. And then again, this winter time means the big fish are coming out. Yeah.
So I sort of teased this in the description to the show, that instead of, putting like a turkey or prime rib on the table, someone could put a fish on their Christmas feast table if they watch this show. So if somebody wants to put a nice size, red drum or trout as their centerpiece for their dinner table, if they're really trying to make a nice meal, how would they do that? What kind of fish would they target right now in your area? And what advice would you give them to get on those fish?
Well, when you say it like that, Crazy Horse, what I think I would do is want to put on a flounder. Man, I can just envision a whole stuffed flounder on a plate in the center of that table. And boy, oh boy, that is a Christmas feast for sure. You get a doormat on there.
That's big time.
That is. what's
how you
left
get your
around
Christmas
here.
guests to come over and say, big time.
Bam.
Jason A, let me go ahead and, yeah, Jason A, we're going to put that in for you. But Jason, if you could clarify, are you asking for Captain Massa's email or ours? But go ahead, Captain Massa.
Like I said, we're the big flounders are the ones that are left. You know, the run is over, and most of the flounder have gone to the deep water. But it just so happens that some of the bigger ones just do stay in, and when you catch one, you can pretty much sure that's going to be a big flounder. But like everybody or like me, I'm going to target those redfish and trout. A big giant trout is what I'm looking for this time of year. Redfish are plentiful. Georgia has seen a explosion of redfish this year. Is it because of the conservation efforts? Possibly, but more so that this just happens to be a year that everything happened just right. The hatch was great, and the predators weren't out there as much, in my opinion. And all of a sudden, we have redfish around every corner. Some of the trout fishermen say that they can't even get away from them. A real problem that somebody would like to have is to not be able to get away from the redfish. But
yeah,
really
I don't think I've ever heard that before. Like,
I know.
God, if these annoying redfish would just leave me alone.
And that's exactly what I'm hearing, and it's crazy. For me, I'm after the redfish, so it's like heaven for me. But for a purist, a trout guy, they can get in the way. But
Yeah,
the
man.
big trout would be a dream. We're all about release over 20, and I'm a big believer in that. However, sometimes a trout doesn't make it, and they get beat up a little bit, and they don't make it, and you have to keep some of those fish. And I could see a beautiful trout on the center of that table.
Well, you could stick to that. You could do 2 19.5 trout. That's going to probably feed, that's going to get a family of 4 pretty well fed, I think, right?
Oh, absolutely. If you got 2 19 inchers that are fat, you can definitely have a feast on that.
So the first fish you talked about, actually, I'm going to let Carl answer the question because we always want our TFC Plus members to get up there, but any of our members really. Carl Ward says, how do you target the flounder?
Well, for me, I'm not always targeting flounders. It's very rarely that I'm saying I'm going out flounder fishing, but you're getting them on that redfish bite more so than a trout bite. And the way I fish and what I rely on is a jig head and live bait. I have a great little tutorial on Facebook right now of how I rig my shrimp, by cutting the tail off and feeding them through the back of the shell and out. And I'm bounce. It's a cast all the way to the bank. I'm talking right on the grass's edge and just lifting it up, double twitch, let it sit, double twitch, let it sit. And that right there is the recipe for a flounder. He's going to attack that if he's in the area. It's a no-brainer. So when you're targeting redfish that way, a lot of times you'll get that flounder bite. However, for me, going out specifically for flounder, it's not too often. I would have to change my tactics a little bit about not how I'm retrieving, but where I am. I would be focused a lot more on some of the mud flats actually that are coming out of creeks, and there's a little mud flat there, of course, over structure, but a lot of those mud flats I see is where they're gigging them at night, is right along the edge and some clear water on that muddy bottom. They're there. So a specific targeted flounder run would be a little different than a redfish run, where I'm definitely looking for oyster bars, hard structure on the bottom, and outlets from drains. But the flounder are there too. So it's just it's always a joy when you get that flounder bite, because it's different than redfish. It's not a trout, and say, oh, here it is. Do I have a stingray or a flounder?
Yeah. Well, just a reminder, guys, question of the evening wins this prize pack of Old School Tackle Company 1/4 ounce jig heads and 3 3/4 inch paddle tails in hammer color. before we got a lot of questions coming in from a lot of our favorite followers. But before we get to that, I wanted to highlight your deckhand that you got with you.
Oh man,
You got a new deckhand. We're gonna pull up those pictures now. Where? No, they were here.
it's okay. I got the live shot right
You got
here.
the real thing.
The real deal.
Where'd they go?
All right.
Oh.
All right. I'd like everybody to meet River. This is the newest addition to the Coastal Creek family, the Coastal Creek team.
I think
He's
we
a
heard River a few
13-week
minutes.
old Labrador Retriever, British Lab. He's a great. And I told you, Crazy Horse, that what I hope to do is just talk a little bit about what it takes to make a great boat dog. It's not something that just happens. You know, when you're chartering, and if you want to bring a dog or a pet with you, they've got to be well trained, because it would be a tragedy to have your dog barking at the client or getting in the way of a cast, or even getting hooked himself, or just causing problems. So it takes a little bit of practice and patience with your dog. Number one, time on the water counts, man. River's already been on that boat so many times. Every time I go, I'm taking them. And then number two, this is I don't want to get too far away from fishing, but number two is place training. And I just wanted to make this comment. River has a raised bed at the house, and that's his place. And when I say go to place, that's where he stays, and he can't get off of that place until he's called off of it. You know, labs are notorious for chewing everything up, and if you don't have complete discipline or know that you can put him somewhere and he's going to stay, it's going to be big trouble for you. But it also translates to the boat. He's got to have a place on that boat that is his place. And when I tell him River place, he's going to be there and be out of the way. You want a dog that's not going to jump up on your clients, going to be barking, not going to be crazy. He's got to be so calm and so cool and collective that he's just a pleasure to be on the boat. So time on the water counts, and that critical place training that you can say, all right, it's over. Here's where you're going to sit, and he's going to be there, and you can do your chartering service as you need to do, and not worry about, is the dog going to be right up behind me? Am I tripping over him? All that. So a lot of people like to bring their animals, and I've been on a few boats where they've been great dogs, and then I've been on some boats where it's been, I wish you didn't bring that dog.
We've all either been on that boat or fished near a boat. I remember recently we were fishing on blitzing birds, and look over, and this, there's a bird etiquette where you try to stay out of where the frenzy's happening, and look over in the boat next to us, the dog jumps right into the middle of it.
There you go. Like
and
I said,
everyone just kind of slack jaws, like, what just happened? Bike died. We had to all go looking for him. But before we get to, we got a lot of questions coming in from the audience. Before we get to that, Captain Massa, Coastal Creek Charters, how does someone get in touch with you? How does someone book you? Tell us that whole thing about how they can get that a magical experience.
Well, most of my advertising or my presence is on Facebook. I spend a lot of time on there, so you can find me on Facebook, and then Messenger. I respond really well to Messenger, as well as my phone number, which I have here, text messages, and then Instagram, all the common ways. But most often, I'm getting my contacts through Messenger. I do have a brand new website that has just been released here in the last 2 weeks. It's coastalcreekcharters.net instead of .org. So coastalcreekcharters.net. You can find all my pricing, all my availability dates, everything's there. I'm really hoping that catches some traction. In the next few months, you should be able to do a Google search and it will pop up. But right now, as it's so fresh, you have to type in coastalcreekcharters.net, and it brings you right to a great website.
Yeah, that .net really helps. For our domain, we either had the choice of the fishing channel 874-298-2467.com or thefishingchannel.net. It became a very easy choice on that one. But questions are rolling in. Let's give our audience some love. Rodney asked, do you use crabs for the flounder? I think you watered some salivary glands when you said, let's put a flounder on the table for Christmas.
Oh, absolutely. What I do when I have been flounder fishing, and specifically for flounder, I have a fake crab. It's an artificial crab. It's, you know, just a small crab, and I lather it down with scent, and I do use that because it bounces just perfect. It's got the hooks that come out the top, so it doesn't get hung up a lot. So that is a go-to for flounder. But the best bait that I find for flounder when I'm catching them the most, you know, even if I'm targeting redfish, is that mud minnow or a smaller finger mullet. So they seem to just suck up a mud minnow or a finger mullet more than anything. Of course, they'll hit shrimp, but if you were to tell me tomorrow, Miss Massa, you've got to go out and catch some flounder for me, I would focus on that artificial or the mud minnow or the small mullet. That's what I would focus on.
And all of those baits are going to catch you redfish as well.
Yeah,
right?
you know that's a no-brainer. It's a pleasure to run into a redfish when you're trying to catch a nice flounder, but you're right.
Sean Fenwick asked, Captain Massa, what is your preferred fight, the reds or the trout, and how light are you fishing?
All right, you know, again, for me, I am a redfish guy. I love it. You know, the difference between a 19-inch redfish and a 23-inch redfish is night and day. And even though that the length is only a few inches more, but that girth and that strength is a whole different fish. So for me, I love a redfish fight, and especially a slot redfish that's right at 23. I could keep him and still have the fight of a lifetime. So yeah, that's up to me. That's for me. But a 27-inch trout, that puts up a pretty darn good fight too. Unfortunately, I haven't run into too many of those. Up here, you get a 21-inch trout, you're in business. But they're here, so a big trout, I would put up with a big redfish. If you have the size for size, if I had to say, you're going to catch a 19-inch trout or a 19-inch redfish, a 19-inch trout is going to be a comparable fight. But a 21-inch redfish and a 21 or 22-inch trout, the redfish is going to win every time, I think.
Yeah, I'll say I think you're dead on the money. What I've noticed, the trout, you know, you talked about this transition, right? You talked about the transition where a redfish becomes a much stronger fish. The trout actually do the same thing, but it happens at a larger size from what I've noticed. So trout, once they hit like 24, anything over a 24-inch trout becomes a much stronger, heavier fighting fish. Whereas that transition seems to happen a little smaller with a redfish. Once that redfish gets over 19 inches, it turns into a much harder fighter.
Man, you hit the nail on the head. That's exactly pinpointed what I'm thinking.
Yeah. We have, let's see, what is your favorite fish to eat and why?
Well, my favorite fish is the flounder. I mean, I don't know, that white, flaky, beautiful meat is just incredible. Though you get those 4 beautiful fillets off of flounder, it just looks good right from the get-go. It cooks up so easily and nice, and the flavor is great, and you can make it any way you want. It really takes in the seasonings, and you can make it taste any way you want. I think that next would be a trout. It tastes great, and I love a trout. And then third would be the redfish. Now, how I like to cook, and what I would rather cook than all of them, is redfish on a half shell. That's my favorite way to prepare fish. That's on a grill with the skin and scales still on, never flipping it, just seasoning it the way you want. And that flame broiled redfish to me is just off the chain. So depending on how I'm cooking it, if I'm baking or frying. Those other two, trout and flounder, are my favorite. But if I'm going to be able to put something on the grill and feel like a grill master, that redfish is too much. I can't even stand to think about it without tasting it right now.
I mean, am I going too far in making this request, Captain Massa?
Let's hear it.
For a TFC Plus video, which is our premium content, we get a little bit of a catch and cook for the redfish on the half shell.
Man, I'd love to do that. Next time I'm out, I'll make sure I take that video, because it's my favorite way and I do it all the time, and it's so easy. And the fruits of your labor on that are your whole family will go crazy. That's for sure. When you're picking that flaky white meat right off that shell, you won't be disappointed. That's for sure. That's a great question. I'm feeling like a winner, maybe. That's a little too early, so we'll see.
Carl Ward asked, what leader line do you use for trout and reds?
All right, so I stick with the same setup for all my rods, you know, even from my 2000s all the way up to my, 5000s, and that's going to be 20-pound braid with 20-pound leader. You know, I was going with fluoro for a long time, and buying those expensive rolls of fluoro, and then saw some videos, did some research, and lately I've been going with mono. I know that some people go, "Whoa, that's crazy." Our water's very, very murky. It's not very crystal clear, so the clarity or the visibility is not an issue at all. And I feel like the abrasion resistance is very similar. And you can get 50 yards of mono for $5.
Yeah.
So for me, I haven't experienced any more break-offs or anything like that with going with fluoro compared to mono. So I mix it up, but 20 to 20, and that's what my standard issue is. And of course, when I'm going after those big bull reds, I'm going to step it up to an 80-pound 80-pound braid, and then probably 50 or 60-pound, and I'll go with fluorocarbon for that.
Well, it makes perfect sense if you drive down that what is that 95 that runs down your coast, and go over all of those little creeks and inlets. I mean, your watercolor in most of those areas, it's pretty stained. So there's no reason why you're gonna spend a whole bunch of money on some expensive fluorocarbon. That makes perfect sense.
Well, like I said, I did it for years, and if I would have seen any kind of, man, this is breaking more or anything, I probably would stick with the fluorocarbon, but the mono, it works. I mean, how many times for how many years did people have the full reel of mono on there, and that was their line? I mean, tying straight to jig heads right from their line. So it's a toss up. It's depending on what I have in my tackle box, but I'm using both of those.
So guys, we have another question coming.
No, it's done.
Yeah, we have like another minute to get your questions in for question of the night. I have one last question from me. One difference I noticed between fluoro and mono is your mono is going to stretch a little bit more than fluoro. Do you notice that with the lengths of mono that you use? Is there a particular brand that you use that doesn't stretch as much?
No, I haven't really felt like there's any not much difference now. And I'll tell you why is that I use a 7-foot medium fast action, and there's so much bend in that top tip of that rod that for me to actually feel a difference that my mono is stretching, I just don't feel it myself. I like to feel the play of the fish, and those lighter action rods just give it a little more fun. I went with, for a long time, a medium, heavy action. I would set the hook and reel the fish in. And my buddy Mark McClellan turned me on to said, "Man, what are you doing here? Aren't you trying to have some fun?" And I said, "Yeah, you're right." He turned me on to a fast action, longer rod, and it's just more fun. I just don't feel it. Maybe I need to be more sensitive to the bite, but I haven't gotten there yet. I just love to feel that bend, double over and fight that fish.
There's nothing like it. The tug is the drug, is what they say.
You said it.
Well, we are at that time, Captain Massa. We got a little bit of a tech issue here on the Instagram feed. Got to make sure they're still included, even though you can't ask the questions to win the prize on the Instagram feed, unfortunately. But next time, join us over on YouTube and Facebook to be included on that. But we'll do a little drum roll, give you a little bit of time to remember those questions.
Well, I think what I'm going to go with is that what is my favorite fish? And because it led to that request for a catch and cook episode, and I'm excited about that. So redfish on a half shell, if you don't know about it, look it up and take a look at Coastal Creek Charters. I've got a couple posts about it, and you won't be disappointed at all. I promise you that.
Guys, definitely I'm hitting this too many times. Definitely look up Coastal Creek Charters. Definitely book a trip. If you do, I'm going to be a little bit jealous because this is on my to-do list, like top 10. So if you beat me to it, I'm going to be a little bit mad, but I'll be happy for you as well. So you can come back and tell me all about it. But Rodney, you win the Old School Tackle Company prize pack. And Captain Massa, happy holidays, brother. Happy holidays to your family. You got any holiday wishes or final things to share with us before we log off? Yes, absolutely. I just wanted to tell you and Lady C to have a very merriest Christmas, and know that your hard work and all that you're doing to provide quality content and people seeing what's going on up and down the coast is going to pay off. I really believe the Fishing Channel is going to blow up because of the two of you. I'm blessed to know you and appreciate you both. And to all those fishermen out there, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and tight lines to everybody. Oh, that was amazing stuff. And guys, we couldn't do it without people like Captain Massa. You are the quintessential teammate, and we certainly couldn't do it without all of our viewers that are at home and help contribute to an amazing cause tonight. So thank you guys so much. We will be back with you next week, and then another week after that, right before Christmas. Is that right?
Well, it's going to be after Christmas because Christmas is on the weekend.
All right. So we got next week.
One last thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
I want to have that challenge where I get to interview you. We need to hear some of your fishing techniques and tips. So put that on your list that I'm going to be interviewing you and asking you some of the tough questions.
Okay. Well, we have
you and Lady C.
What's that?
Well, we'll do Coastal Creek interview, right?
Yeah, we're gonna put that on the calendar, guys.
All right, perfect.
It turns out that Lady C and Crazy Horse actually know a little bit about fishing too.
I know you do.
So we'll get in on some of that. Captain Massa, thank you so much. Have a great Christmas, and we'll see you next month.
Merry Christmas. Have the best day.
Thanks, you too, brother.
Peace.